Okay, let's get it on. Give a little short lesson. Let me start off by saying, let me give all praise to the Most High Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai by Shem Rakak Wadash. Peace to the hopefully elect of Israel. Double honors to the apostles, the elders, and brethren, a great millstone, whom I learned this truth from. Okay, and to all like-minded brothers who are preaching the truth all around the earth, Shalom. Uh, I don't know what I'm going to call this lesson just yet. Taking a few minutes while I'm at the plantation to do a short lesson. Last night I saw on the internet that the former commissioner of the NBA passed away, David Stern, and I just wanted to bring a few scriptures out just to kind of keep in mind, man, the line of business that professional sports is, okay? Um, and just keeping it in layman's terms, if you will, sports is just a meat market, okay? Just like they used to do 100 years ago, 150, 200 years ago, okay? Where they take people, put them on the block, if you will. That's why they call it a trading block, to see what the goods are, to see whether you're something that rich people want to invest in. Why? Because they take Jake to make money. Okay, that's the only reason why you got pro sports. Okay, so that's kind of where my head is this morning. Thinking about, that man. He was, if I'm not mistaken, commissioner for 30 years. I think he came in around 84, 85, somewhere in there like that, and stayed until 2015 or 16, somewhere in there like that. Okay, but as a commissioner, not quoting the definition verbatim, but a commissioner is someone who is elected by a commission, to be in a certain role, a role of basically an overseer. So that's what he did. He was a commissioner for a bunch of rich men to make sure that he took care of their affairs. That's as with all commissioners, whether it's MLB, NFL, NHL, whatever it may be. Okay, they all have a commissioner where the owners pay the commissioner to run the league. Okay, and I'm going to read a couple of scriptures here. I don't want to ramble on too much, but particularly when I get to Revelation 18, I'm going to jump into that because there's one particular word that I want to pull out of that. Although we know that that's dealing with the end of Babylon the Great, it's just a phrase that's in there. See, because they took all the markets, well, particularly with the NBA, and tried to make it a global game. Took it all overseas in Europe and in China. They want to have a great big part of the market in China because there's over, what, 1 billion people there, right? So that's more product that they can sell. And I remember during a strike, because I used to be heavily into basketball, I think it was in 1999, I can remember distinctly in an interview at some point, David Stern referred to the NBA as being able to put the best product out there for consumers. So Jake, you're not even a human to them. Now you may be making $200 million from playing basketball, but you got to think about how much the owners are making and how much the league in and of itself is making. The league has television contracts worth billions and billions of dollars. All that money generated from games, posters, memorabilia, television contracts is split between all the teams, okay? So you figure if a guy is making $25 million a player, or Jake is making $25 million a year, you got to think about the guy that's paying him. How much is he making? If a salary cap is $400 million on a particular team, And if you go over the luxury tax, the owner has to pay an additional tax. That's why, thus the word luxury tax. Um, Pays additional money. Okay, where are they getting the money from, right? So these people are wealthy way beyond what you could imagine. It used to be a side thing where back in the 40s and 50s, a lot of these people who owned these teams were doing it just for sport, for competition between the next biggest guy. So if you take a guy who owned a steel mill, and he was, well, what you would call a billionaire now, back then in the 40s and 50s, would go against a guy who has his own oil company and he would bring about his team. That's how team sports came about, because the owners were actually competing against each other. And they decided to come up with leagues to see if their team was better than the next team. But it was really the competition between the owners. One man might be an oil man, the other man might be a steel man, and that's how they began competing. Thus, you got the Packers and, all that kind of thing. The Browns from way back when, that's how they started these teams, okay? But then as time went on, they saw a market for it. Obviously, once Jake was allowed to get in there and start playing, okay? Once we got in there, man, we took the sports over. And it made them very, very, very rich. Okay? So without further ado, let me go on and get into some of these scriptures. And it is just something that, I was thinking about. And this man, he lived a very good life. David Stern did, more than likely. I think at one point he was making $10 million a year. And that was probably in the 90s, okay, as a commissioner. So he lived a good life, man. He didn't have to deal with the struggles of every day like we do, okay. I would imagine flying on private jets and having the best to eat, having the best to wear, okay, having the best housing, okay, having the best meal per diem, probably $1,000 a meal. Who knows, right? So without further ado, let me go on and just jump into it. Now, David Stern was 77 years old. He's no longer here, but he had a heck of a life, okay? But with that, there's a penalty and a cost, right? So this is Job chapter 4. And I'm going to hit the usual scripture, okay? Let me start at verse 7. Remember, I pray thee, whoever perished being innocent, or where were the righteous cut off? Verse 8, even as I have seen, they that plow iniquity and sow wickedness reap the same. By the blast of the Most High they perish, and by the breath of his nostrils are they consumed. Okay? That's a standard scripture for when these people leave here. And, they had the best of the best, and they look haughty and high-minded in life because they've attained so much, right? And they wax proud, that they were able to accomplish. Now, Stern was a so-called Jewish person, okay? And we're not even going to get into that, because if you've been, if you know the truth, then that's something that we know about. Okay, we know who the real children of the Lord are. Okay, so I'm gonna go quickly over to let me see, where do I want to go from here. Let me go to Slovakia. Give me a quick second to find what I wanted. I'm going to go over to Revelations 18. And Revelation 18 is, for those who may not know, it's talking about the destruction of Babylon the Great, okay? And there's this one part I wanted to bring out because remember that they took all of these leagues, well, the NBA, I'll just stick with the NBA, and tried to make it global, okay? So that's why you got so influx of so many different foreign players over here now, okay? Which that started back in the early 90s. Well, let me see, maybe the late 80s is when they started bringing all of these different foreign players into the league, but they're trying to develop markets where they can make billions upon billions of dollars by selling all of their paraphernalia, okay, and getting people to tune into the games. So let me go on, and I'll start at verse 8. This is Revelation 18 and verse 8. Therefore all her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, talking about Babylon the Great. For strong is the Lord our power, who judges her. Verse 9, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. Now, what I wanted to pull out of there actually was those that live deliciously, okay? And you live deliciously off of what? Off of your dealings with other people all across the world, right? Trying to start these new global markets for NBA basketball, okay? And who knows what kind of deals that they made, but these people, they live deliciously, man. It's not their talent that they're making their money off of, okay? It's not their talent. By and large, it's Jake, his talent, that's being used and pimped to make these people wealthy. All right. So I just wanted to grab that out of there for those who are worldly, who are living deliciously, and it's not their talent, that they're making their money off of. They're making their monies off of back dealers, lies, propaganda, BS, Salakia. Let me get to my next scripture. I didn't plan on this being this long. I just wanted to, like I said, bring something out because I saw that. And like I said, I was a big NBA fan at one time and, watched all the games, had favorite players and all that kind of stuff. Um, but later on down the road, you kind of see it for what it really is, man. And, it's nothing but a slave market. They rich slaves, but it's still just a slave market because when they're done with you, that's it. They don't want you no more. Okay. This is Lamentations 5. Okay. Remember, O Lord, what has come upon us. Consider and behold our reproach. Our inheritance is turned to strangers. Our houses to aliens. Right. They've got everything of ours. They've taken everything of ours. Even so much as even in our modern day, they've taken your talent and waxed grossly rich off of your talent, Jake. We are orphans and fatherless. Our mothers are as widows. We have drunken our water for money, and our wood is sold unto us. Our necks are under persecution. We labor and have no rest. We have given the hand to the Egyptians and to the Assyrians to be satisfied with bread. Our fathers have sinned and are not, and we have borne their iniquities. Servants have ruled over us. There is none that doeth deliver us out of their hand. Okay, I'm going to stop right there because in verse 8, the servants have ruled over us. These other nations, man, and in particular, those who call themselves Jews and are not, you could apply it to these folks as well because they run all these different industries, man. They run the cable industry. They run the media outlets. They cover, everything that you could think of to making of the socks that go on in the league, to the making of the shoes, uniforms, and they're using us to make all of their money. And then not always, but you go to these arenas, man, who do you see working? Who's working the popcorn stand? Who's walking up and down the aisles? Who's taking the orders? They want to put us in service positions. That's what we can do. You know, we're the talent, and they're making their money off of us, okay? And they're shipping us all around the world to go make their money for them. And as a side note, you could say that same thing about the NCAA, which is why I no longer watch any of that, okay? Because all they're doing is using the children of the Lord, basically to make all of their money for them, okay? But Lord willing, this thing was going to come to an end this year. I sure hope so. I'm praying for it, that the Lord deliver us. Our kingdom is on its way. We can tell by the way these people live day to day, and a lot of them are coming down low. So we just keep praying and praising the Most High's name and His Son's name, Yahweh Yahushua, and we definitely as the saints want to try to hasten the time, okay, so that we can get out of here and these people be put down forever. So with that, I'm just going to close this little lesson, just something I wanted to speak on, because that was the last thing that I saw last night before I went to bed was David Stern's passing. So again, hey, he was 77 years old. He lived a good life, made tons and tons and tons of money, and of course you see all of the condolences and tweets by all the current and former players and so on and so forth, but hey, the man wasn't innocent, okay? So with that, I'm going to give all praise to the Most High, Yahweh B'Shem, Yahweh Shai B'Shem, Rakal Kodesh. Peace to the hopefully elect of Israel, and I'll see you on the next lesson, Lord willing. Shalom.